Hello everyone! Today you should guess what I am going to speak about. Hello, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste and Konnichiwa. Yes, you are right. Today I am going to speak about the cultures, also about the communication and the language that will include the concepts, the components of the cross-cultural communication. Yes. Do you know what is cross-cultural communication? Today we will see the answers to the following plans, to the following questions. We will see the various disciplines about the cultural studies. We will see the answer to the language. What is language? What is debates? What is semiotics? Everything related to the culture and communication. Also, we will see the communication styles, problems, barriers that is appeared during the communication. And also we will find answers to the stereotypic questions. What is stereotype? Yes? Okay. Cross-cultural communication is a multifaceted subject which has an element from a number of aspects, from the anthropology, from the linguistics, from the philosophy, from the psychology. And cross-cultural communication is a way when people from different cultures communicate when they deal with each other, from the distance or face-to-face. And also communication involves spoken and written language, maybe body language, the language of etiquette and protocol. And also there are two main schools of the research, the theory of the research and the theory into practice school. They are the using psychology, using anthropology, sociology, they are influencing in communication. The key influence are the study of semiotics. Semiotics is the study of the science. Science is the study of the relationship between language and thought, language and culture. And we have some questions while speaking about communication. Does the way we use language influence the way we think? Or does the way we think influence the language we use? And also maybe there appear a question, does culture influence language or is the other way around? We will see the answers in this video. First of all, I would like to speak about the semiotics. What is semiotics and what is the definition of semiotics? Semiotics was introduced by the Swiss linguist Ferdinand de Saussure, and he is also considered the father of the linguistics, father of the modern linguistics. And it's defined as symbols and their use in interpretation. And Saussure put forward the idea that language is a cultural phenomenon and it produces the meaning in a special way. He developed the theory of the linguistic item, such as sign. How we mentioned it above, sign has three basic characteristics. The first is the concrete form. It has a concrete form and it refers to something other than itself, and it's recognized by other people of a sign. Okay, a sign is called signifier. The mental association, it refers to the signified. Language and thoughts, the first academic cultural studies were carried out by anthropologists in the mid-19th century and were entered in the USA on the Native Americans. They wanted to understand the culture of the rapidly disappearing Native American tribes, and in particular the study of the language. They attempted to answer the question which came first, language or thought. Was it the cultural feature which gave rise to the language? And if the language came first, we did that limit how people thought about their society. Briefly summarized, that debate is whether language determines what we experience and how we see the world, or whether our experience of the world determines how we think about it and how we express it. Definitions of culture, we can see definitions of the culture in art, music, literature, humor, in language, in attitudes, yes, in customs. Without knowing the language well, one misses a lot of subtitles of the culture. For example, humor, one is forced to remain a relative outsider. Cultural encounter. This is the experience that travelers recognize that it's proud to avoid jokes, irony, until they are sure of the other culture's perception of what represents as acceptable humor. The essence of effective cross-cultural communication in this, it has more to do with realizing the right responses. As we might expect, there are many definitions of culture. Some of these definitions include the following. As you can see from the picture, culture is a man-made, confirmed by others. Conventionalized. It provides people with a meaningful context in which to meet, to think about themselves and face the other world problems. This is from the researcher, from the scientist's opinion. A shared system of meaning. It is the next definition. Culture is a shared system of meanings. It dictates what we pay attention to, how we act, and what we value. Yes? From this view, we can guess that cultures will appear itself in the tradition, in the belief, in the people's attitude. Each cultural world operates according to its own internal dynamics, its own principles, and its own laws, written or unwritten laws, yes? We can also see it explicit and implicit laws. Even time and space are unique to each culture. And there are some common threads that run through all cultures. And it would seem that a comprehensive, workable definition of culture is based on the belief that its value system lies at its core. And it includes its norms, behavior, belief, aesthetic standards, patterns of thinking, and style of communication, which a particular group of people have developed over time to ensure their survival. And also, individually is developed within the overall context of the culture. All people carry within them patterns of thinking, feeling, and behavioral responses, which have been learned throughout their lifetime. In the most Western languages, culture is taken to mean civilization, education, art, and every sphere of communication, every sphere of life. This is culture in a narrow sense. However, culture is a programming. As soon as certain patterns of thinking, feeling, of behaviors, for example, and these patterns of thinking, feeling, and behavior indeed be described as a form of mental programming, using a computer analogy, and have been called mental software. And Hofstede, he is a scientist who had found some cultural attributes during his life. He describes culture as the collective programming of the mind, which distinguishes the members of one group or category of people from another. What we learn, in fact, modified by the influence of collective programming, that is culture, as well as by our own unique personal experiences. The useful method is to divide culture into implicit culture and basic assumptions which produce norms and values which show in the explicit culture. Implicit and explicit notions shown in the culture. Observable relativity, which includes language, food, music, dress, literature, architecture, or everything maybe include. Oberg, iceberg. Yes, you know about Oberg's iceberg. This is a very famous iceberg to teach the explicit and implicit cultures to the new students, new learners. And The Danish writer Calvert Oberg used the analogy of an iceberg to describe visible and invisible culture. Visible and invisible. Visible culture is what appears above the waves. Yes, waves expressing something is visible. For example, explicit culture referred to above. This can be relatively easily observed, even by those who have only a limited exposure to a new culture. For example, tourists and infrequent business travelers, also its significance may not be fully recognized. And the invisible culture is what lies below the waves. The implicit culture. This includes assumptions, values, attitudes toward authority, taking punctuality, communication patterns, the status in the society. The assumptions at the deepest level are the most important levels of the culture and most difficult to understand. Okay, corporate culture. Today I'm going to speak about the corporate culture also. Do you know what is corporate culture? Now we will see the answers. Corporate culture is often described as a way we do things around here, or the glue that holds an organization together. It's a collective behavior of people in organizations where they share the same corporative vision, values, customs, and common working language, maybe symbols. It's to be found in, for example, large multinational companies and diplomatic services. Yes? And these common values are in effect a form of implicit control mechanism that permeates the essence of the organization. And corporate culture is the extent how the organization exercises control over its members. A further example of corporate culture is found in professional life, in standards, in examples, lawyers, teachers, and doctors. And for example, we can see that from the picture, McDonald's employees are known as crew members. Other corporate symbols can include the myths and stories about the founders. Its particular success is the annual office party and the company uniform. Corporate culture embodies a corporate essence with its known code, ethical conduct, and social responsibility, which is communicated to all employers and suppliers, can cover such areas as human rights. And large multinationals further develop their corporate culture through the getting of corporate universities. An early example of being McDonald's Hamburger University in Illinois. That was a large company have followed this example and have set up branches of their corporate universities abroad to train their staff of various cultures in corporate culture. And communication style. Let's speak about the communication style. This is the very interesting topic for everyone, I think. Communication styles divided into two, how we know, verbal communication and non-verbal communication. This means body language, yes, gestures. And also we have written communication, which is rapidly becoming as an increased use of technology in communication. This covers the use of language in the internet, as well as communication devices such as smartphones, which many argue that changing the way we think and we use the language. And in doing everything represented to the ideas, but forward by hosted entrepreneurs. They are the famous scientists in the sphere of cross-cultural communication, and they relate to communication. Their communication framework is summarized below. From the picture you can see, the contention is that for example, if you understand your dominant style and compare it to your intercultural dominant style, you will be well placed to understand how your communication style might be misunderstood, and therefore will adapt it accordingly. Communication styles divided also some parts. From it may be direct and indirect, formal or informal, emotional or neutral. It also may be slow and fast. Yes. Practical implications about the communication framework is it's not important to overgeneralize. Communication will vary according to the location, profession, and lifestyle of the individual. The communication style may also vary between social groups. Nevertheless, it's a useful guide for applying theory to practice. And also, today's topic includes barriers to effective communication. There are a Southeast Asian proverb that says, misunderstandings don't exist, only the failure to communicate exists. Yes, it's true. Misunderstandings never exist. It's up to individual. There is certainly lots of trust in this, how we say it. The essence of effective cross-cultural communication has more to do with realizing the right responses than it's sending the right sending. And also communication involves transmitting messages. Yes, these messages may be sent by and may include information about both the actual content of the message and the relationship between those involved in the communication process. However, misunderstandings often occur in the transmission of the message encoded by the sender and decoded by the receiver. Sender, receiver, decoder, and encoded. Noise or interference occurs along the way, and the result can be a distortion or misunderstanding, which is shown in the feedback part of the loop, and the observed behavior as a result or receiving the message. It may be dangerous to assume that others will necessarily decode our message in what we intended. And also, this is a typical sequence of events, and we shouldn't worry. And the next is a language, culture, communication component. Today I'm going to speak about the cultures, cross-cultural communication. These are all about the culture. If you like our video, please improve your knowledge on cross-cultural communication, because cross-cultural communication appears when people meet from the distance or face-to-face. They will show their cultural item, belief, attitude, behavior, everything. Culture, that's why, is very important, and misunderstandings, barriers will be out of when you feel yourself free and comfortable with your speaker. If we say about face-to-face communication, face-to-face communication has a great advantage of providing instant feedback. In other forms, communication, particularly such as email, coding, decoding, problems occur when feedback is delayed. Yes, the result is that we often have difficulty in fully understanding the situation. The outcomes are the follows. Maybe you have to make decisions about how to behave the information we have, which is often complete, or we choose to fill in or ignore in contextual information in our attempts to make decisions, or everything maybe. As a result, we can often make mistakes in perception, interpretation, and evaluation. Ideally, communication takes place in a continuous feedback. I communicate, you respond, I reply, and so on until the communication is complete. However, international conversations, misunderstandings are frequently liable to occur. We fail to evaluate the message properly, the result being that we don't give it up appreciate importance. And the next definition and the next notion about the culture is ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism is tend to just judge over the cultures according to the beliefs, values, and traditions of our own group of culture. And ethnocentrism may be said to be almost universal. Members of nearly all the world's cultures regard to their own way of life as being better than even closely related neighbors. We often describe unfounded and negative attributes to other cultures. Our reactions can be summarized as follows. For example, it may be ignorance, and it may include fear and anxiety, laziness, yes. And our reactions to culture situation which differs from our own experiences often follow the sequence given below. We observe that is happening, we try to communicate, we find it difficult to understand, and we interpret the situation according to our own limited knowledge, our body values, and possibly limited experience. We become judgmental, and often it's expression to make our prejudice apparent. And in this way, cultural diversity comes. Different cultures have different norms, expectations, behaviors in both formal and informal situations, from the social interaction, meeting, or negotiations. The lack of awareness of understanding of these differences can create misunderstandings and, in extreme cases, even offense. Okay, assuming similarity with one's own culture. There is often a tendency to assume similarities between the foreign culture and one's own, rather understanding the differences. An example is a breach in American perceptions. There were very few differences between their cultures. Also in reality, there are many subtle ways in which the two cultures differ, and this is only fully recognized when two live and work in each other culture. And the most interesting topic in this video, I like the stereotyping. Speaking about stereotyping is very dangerous because cultures have different stereotypes according to their beliefs, traditions. Stereotypes can be described as a group of beliefs, attitudes toward people, and distinct groups. People from pre-established expectations about how members of the other groups are likely to have and what they believe in. Experiences often don't fit into our preconceived categories, and we are often faced with our ambiguity. Our response is to try to force them into an accurate category, thus distorting our perception of reality. The danger is that categorizing can lead to stereotyping, and we categorize people of other cultures in the simplest way possible. The end result is tendency. And stereotyping provides us this quick, simple way of classifying people, particularly those from other cultures, but it does not allow for variation and may be positive or negative. Stereotypes are usually harmless if you use only general rule to some, but it can be harmful, dangerous, and recede if taken to be the whole truth about danger group of people. This is because all stereotypes contain value judgments. Common stereotypical categories may be labeled in terms, for example, race, age, gender, social class, and dress. The gender lies in the speed and intensity of these generalizations and assumptions about other people, which are usually based on variety, seen evidence, and knowledge. Stereotyping can take two different forms. Yes, there are two different forms: traits that we admire, ambition, modesty, cleverness, bravery, and dislike, laziness, stupidity, lack of ambition. However, there is a place for stereotyping as our brain tries to sort in categories, and stereotypes become initially useful pigeon. And stereotypes also play their part in providing a basis for possible further closer investigation. The next definition is a perception. Like exception, perception lies at the very heart of cross-cultural communication. We all tend to categorize our experiences in order to make sense of the world we live in. The problem is when we encounter a new world we are not familiar with. We are faced with ambiguity, which is turn cause insecurity. Faces the security, our natural tendency is to fall back on our own norms and values and perceive the person we are dealing with even hostile. And our negative emotions come to the fore, and the stereotype with the person we are dealing with, and these stereotypes are frequently negative. We assume that quite incorrectly we think about the perceived and world in basically the same way. We had the tendency to see things not as they are but as we are. We often assume other people experience some physical, intellectual or emotional reactions as we do. We believe that it's a pleasing or distasteful to us, pleasing or distasteful to others. This is clearly not the case in reality. Therefore, in understanding why this is, recognize our differences in perception. Some examples of attitudes regarding perception are follows. Abroad is unterribly bloody and foreigners are friends. Everybody has right to pronounce foreign names as he chooses. What is true on the side of the pioneers is not on the other. And from the French philosophers Blaise Pascal, this idiom is very important in understanding cross-cultural communication and cross-cultural communicators. If we speak about the attitudes and prejudice, this is a certain personalized ideas. These are rooted in our culture, and as we have seen, they are colored and often reinforced by what we read and care taught. We look at the world around us through the filter of our own values, prejudice and stereotypes we have built up. And the problem while occurring cross-cultural communication, there may be various different problems in culture communication. We look at the same facts but came up with different views. We may find uncomfortable and even challenging. Purpose, it's the first sight something intimidating. Other people's views may be well different but not necessarily wrong. If we are to understand their world, we need to understand their perceptions, their including perceived views in the culture. To overcome these problems, we need to recognize that other people are not better or worse, just different from us. To deal with these others successfully and control ourselves and our feelings when faced with insecurity. Recognizing ignorance, we should recognize what we don't know precisely, how others differ from us. We choose to ignore contextual information in attempting to make decisions and use our programmed cultural base. And we should take the responsibility, we should accept responsibility, we should feel, we should react, we should deal with others. One useful procedure for helping us to do is to take the following steps. From the picture you can see, you should stop. You should stop in the situation of ambiguity or neutral tendency and from the comfortable situation. In fact, we need to do the opposite. This is the slow down and reflect. We should look and listen to other people and listen to how they speak. What does this tell you about their style? You should feel the atmosphere. It's friendly, hostile or neutral. Don't assume. Making assumptions is the most neutral thing in the world. Don't ask. If you think something may be wrong, ask politely if there is anything you can do. This will not cause offense. In fact, people will be pleased that you are showing an interest. It's printable. And I think today's cross-cultural knowledge was very useful. As a summary, as a conclusion of this topic, I would say that studying cross-cultural communication is influenced by anthropologists, linguists, how I mentioned it, because they were the key influences. We should know about the semiotics science in order to have the true communication with our partner. And also, never forget that culture can be divided into explicit and implicit. And don't worry to make an anthropocentristic and ignoratic or fear or lazy behaviors. Don't worry to show your fear and laziness. And summarizing by formulating 3 basic rules to help us to understand the cross-cultural communication. We should accept the others different from us. We should accept what we precisely how others differ from us. We should accept the responsibility. In addition, we should remember that linguistic fluency doesn't necessarily equal conceptually fluency. And today's video is over. See you next time. Bye!